this foundation for freedom, family, and faith. Hi, I'm Anne DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years, whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities. We've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Good evening. Welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. This is Anne DeSantis. Great to be here in season 3 with another amazing guest I have for all of you tonight. I have Jenny duBay. She is an author and a domestic abuse survivor. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us on this program.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. You have such a beautiful faith journey, and you've been through so much, and I know you have a heart to helping other people. I want to tell people where your website is so that they can go there and learn more about you. Her website is jennydubay.com. And I'm just going to read just a tiny bit on her About Me page on the website. She says that as a domestic abuse survivor and now advocate, I know what a huge emotional, spiritual, physical, and psychological impact intimate partner violence has on a person. My mission, meaning Jenny's mission, is to help others gain clarity and understanding to reclaim their true selves made in God's image and likeness and touch the hem of God's robe. How beautiful. And you did a great job with your website. Since this show is called Journeys in Faith, we love to know about your faith journey. But tell us, obviously you went through such a difficult, challenging, and traumatic time. Start us there and then take us back to the beginning. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey, that's for sure. People think you're in an abusive relationship, you know it. It's obvious, it's not. It took me over a decade to realize this isn't a difficult marriage. This is actually abuse. And when my husband and I first got married, I was not attending the church. I'm a cradle Catholic, but I stopped going to church for about 9 years, 9 long, dark years. And we met and got together and we had a secular marriage, and God is amazing. God is amazing because yes, those were difficult times. It was challenging and, just putting it mildly, but it wasn't until after I returned to the church, returned to my faith, and really realized the truth of the Catholic Church and the beauty of it, and started studying theology to get my degree and just really got involved in the faith. That's when God revealed to me more how deeply disturbed my relationship was and how something needed to change and what was really going on, just the truth of the matter. And honestly, I don't know how I would have healed. I wouldn't have healed. There's no healing without Christ. There isn't. And so I really think that when I was away from the church, I don't think I could have handled really the truth of what was going on in my relationship. And because when you're in an abusive relationship, you tend to numb and minimize and just really pretend nothing's wrong. And when you bury those things, they don't really go away. It's just a survival mechanism. But then when it all comes out and all those feelings and that trauma really hits you, you need some help. And I just feel it was a gift from God that didn't happen until after I came back in the church and found the support that I needed. A wonderful group that I'm in is called Hope's Garden. That's all just faith-filled women who've been in situations like mine, and we just pray and we get together, and it's just wonderful. And it's like, without that healing grace, without that healing power of Christ, I don't know. I don't think I couldn't have made it. I couldn't have made it.
What a journey. And there's so much more to learn about you. I just want to encourage people to go to that website and connect and learn more and get your book, which we're going to talk a lot more about on the second half of the show. Take us back a little bit further, though, in terms of the beginning of that faith journey. Tell us, like, what was it like sort of growing up in your faith? Because obviously you were away from it for a while, but what were those roots? Tell us about those roots of your faith.
Well, I grew up in a household. My father is not religious at all, but my mother made up for it. So my mother and my grandmother are deeply, deeply spiritual women. And they provided that foundation, that necessary foundation. And, you know, they were the spiritual leaders of our family. And when I left the church, it wasn't like I did it on purpose. It just, I had issues going. I just kind of just stopped going to mass once in a while. Oh, no big deal, until all of a sudden I'm not going at all. And sin begets sin. Once you start on that path, it just spirals. So like, I was always spiritual and deeply wanting God, but just once I was on the wrong path, I continued to follow the wrong path and got involved in like New Age and just really horrible, dangerous things, because New Age is very dangerous. But still, I had that, because of the spiritual foundation that my grandmother and my mother laid for me. And because at that point, my grandmother was in heaven, so I know her prayers. I mean, I know she's up there, and I think she helped a lot. And then my mother never forced me. Like, she was always kind of nudging me back, but gently. Like, she knew the ways to help me reconnect in ways that didn't feel like she was pushing me and pulling me. And so my journey back was it was a lot of prayer because of my family members, and a lot of looking into things myself. Like, I really got involved in the mystics. I love the mystics. And it started with Catherine of Siena, and then it went to Teresa of Avila and St. John of the Cross. And once you get involved in the mystics, it's pretty hard to stay away from the church. They just call you right back in. So it was an amazing journey, and I can see now the Holy Spirit working just step by step, because Christ just always wants to bring all of us back to him. And it'd take too long to describe all the things that happened, but just let's say the Holy Spirit was definitely at work, and the prayers of my family and the support of my mother. Well, now here I am.
Wow. That's beautiful. I mean, obviously this is a short program, so there's always so much more than what we hear. And people that are watching this video want to learn more about you and your mission, because you went through so much with domestic abuse. And also, as you just described, you were away from your faith, came back. You had that hunger to learn more. You had the hunger to actually live your faith. And so how beautiful it really is. So before we take that break that we do have to take, tell us a little bit about what were those next steps of the journey that led you to do what you're doing now? Because when we come back after the break, we really want to unpack that and learn more about your book and your mission.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when I realized, okay, I'm in an abusive relationship, and this isn't going to get any better. And no matter what I do, self-help marriage books, or they don't help. I started researching all that I could about domestic abuse. So just try to understand my situation, understand my feelings and everything like that. And as I was doing that, a lot of, secular books, articles, things like that out there. But I'm like, okay, well, but when I came back into the church, we got remarried in the church. So I have a sacramental marriage. What does this mean for me as a Catholic woman? And I had a really difficult time finding information. I could, but it was here and there, and it just took a lot of time. And I'm like, well, most people don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to put it all together on a website and write from a Catholic perspective. And I didn't find anyone. I also have a Substack blog, and I wasn't finding any writers in the Catholic world writing about domestic abuse from a Catholic perspective. And since I'm a writer anyway, and the writing helped my healing, so I started writing for my own healing, putting it out there thinking no one's going to read it anyway. And then come to find out people really was looking for this information. They wanted to know about domestic violence from a Catholic perspective. So it just all fell into place in the way God designed, I guess.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm personally impressed with the work that you're doing. And I do think it's true. I haven't heard a whole lot about that in the Catholic realm, because most of our viewers know I'm the executive director for a nonprofit too that helps families in crisis. So the St. Raymond Onotis Foundation. And in my travels, I haven't seen a whole lot of exactly what you're doing. So I just think that's a beautiful thing. Now, we do have to take a short commercial break. So we will be right back here on Journeys in Faith. Join us in a couple minutes with Jenny duBay. Welcome back to Journeys in Faith on this Friday evening with Jenny duBay, my guest. She's a Catholic author and a domestic abuse survivor. Her website is jennydubay.com. Please go and check it out. And during the first half of the show, Jenny talked about her faith journey and how she got into ministry and just started her writing and began the website. So tell us about your book, Jenny. What is it called, and how did you get the inspiration to write this book?
My book is called Don't Plant Your Seeds Among Thorns. It's a Catholic's Guide to Domestic Abuse. And I got the title from a verse in the book of Jeremiah. And it just seemed to fit because that feels like it's what you're doing in an abusive marriage. You're just giving your love, planting your seeds, doing, and nothing is growing because you're not getting love back. You're not, all that energy is just, you're getting toxic stuff thrown back at you instead of love. So it just seemed to fit. And so in the book, I write about, I explain what domestic abuse is, the red flags, and then I get into various types of abuse, like the sexual abuse, but like a more sexual coercion. So the more hidden abuse that might not be so obvious. so more subtle. I get into the covert abuse, psychological, verbal. I also talk about staying or leaving, the discernment process. How do you discern something like that? And how does it even feel to go through that? And additionally, if you leave and you're Catholic, what are annulments exactly? You know, a lot of people think annulments are a Catholic divorce. They're not.
Yes.
So what are annulments? Does this apply to an abusive marriage? You know, just all those details about that. And I was very blessed. I had Father Chuck Dom, who runs a domestic violence outreach program in the Archdiocese of Chicago. I had him help me with that chapter. He read it. And of course, all mistakes are mine. But, you know, I wanted to make sure that I had the correct information. And just get the information out there, because that's a topic of confusion for a lot of people. Another difficult topic I get into is, can an abuser change? Is that possible? And it is. It's rare, but it is possible, because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, and we all have free will. And so I discussed that. Well, what does it look like? You know, what does authentic change look like versus it's just part of the abuse cycle and they're just trying to draw you back in? That can be very confusing. So, you know, I discuss all that. And I really just started writing the book because the readers of my Substack blog had so many questions and they wanted more. And they're like, well, what about this? What about that? What? And I'm like, well, why don't I just put it all together in one place? So.
What a great resource. I mean, and as you said, and I confirm it myself, being the nonprofit director, executive director, is that there isn't a whole lot out there in that specific realm. So I just congratulate you for doing that. I wondered if in the time that you've written this book and that you pray with others, you mentioned the ministry that you're involved with, have you seen other lives be helped by what you're doing? I'm sure you have. If I know that you can't mention any names, but if there's anything that you want to share with us about how your life and what you've been through has helped other people.
It's really rewarding. I get emails frequently from people, and hands down, a lot of the comments are, I can't find information like this anywhere else. And a lot of clarification of what they were going through, not realizing, again, you know, when you're in an abusive relationship, you don't necessarily realize it, and you're told, oh, this is no big deal, or it's just difficult, or it's all you. And there's just a lot of confusion. Like, I wrote an article, which part of that information is going into the book, about sexual coercion. So what is that? Is that sexual abuse? And it is. But that article was one of my most popular, because women will be like, this happened to me, exactly this scenario. And yeah, I felt really uncomfortable. But I didn't know it was abuse. So I'm trying to, you know, they're trying to minimize it in their own mind, which just makes the trauma worse. And so, like, for clarifying what this is and how to heal. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of feedback and a lot of people just thanking me for just having the information out there and having it clarified in their own mind, so that they know their next steps and know how to go forward and know how to pray.
So important, how to pray and next steps. I mean, these are all necessary things to find healing.
Right.
And so I think that's just wonderful what you're doing. Thank you. I just want to thank you for the great work that you're doing. Now, I believe you're a Catholic speaker too, if I'm right.
Well, I
getting into that, right? You're kind of getting into that too. Yeah. Tell us about that, because obviously there's some people that might be watching and thinking that you would be a good speaker for their church, diocese, archdiocese, organization. If you were to do a talk, tell us about sort of what type of topics do you think would be appropriate or are appropriate for, you know, doing a talk like that?
Well, and it really depends on the situation or where you are in the parents. There's just so much that can be done. So, for example, coming into a marriage prep class and just having one talk on, this is what abuse is, or, you know, what it isn't, the red flags, along with the youth ministry. This is really, really important information to get out to our youth, the red flags, what to look for, because I had no idea. I had absolutely no idea what to look out for. And if I had known, that would have been nice. So, yeah, as far as the topics, it would really depend on who the audience is. I'd really like to get into, and I'm starting to, get into this more of talking to maybe seminarians, because our future priests and our current priests need to be educated. 1 in 3 women are or will be victims of domestic abuse. And for men, I think it's 1 in 8 or 1 in 10. So, men can be victims too. So priests are going to run into this in church. They're going to have people coming to them, and knowing how to respond is really important. So I'm hoping to do more speaking on those topics, and just educating lay ministers as well as clergy. I think that's really important.
What a great idea. I have to say, and I want to make that shout out to our audience here, that this would be a perfect talk for those seminarians, for seminaries. So thank you for bringing that up, because you're right. Numbers like 1 in 3, 1 in 8 or 10 or whatever that is. I mean, that's a lot of people. That means that just about everyone that we know people that we might not know what they've been through, right? People that we might see at church, in neighborhood, even in our families, that maybe they are suffering with some type of an abuse, and we just don't know. So that's why your work is just so very important. Now, there could be some people watching right now that maybe they have some friends or relatives, or maybe they themselves are victims of this. Can you give them some, maybe 1 or 2 tips that might be able to help them to find the healing that they need?
For tips for
either one, either whether it's someone who is suffering or someone they know, maybe what they can watch out for.
Yeah, well, I have that information on my website, a lot of links. There's a lot of links. There is a lot of help online. You just have to know where to look and know what resources are reliable. So that's kind of where I put that together. For family and friends who have a loved one going through this, education. So I just want to say education, education, education. Learn all you can about it. Learn about the red flags, learn about the tactics, especially, when you get into like the psychological and emotional abuse. That's really, it's so important to know about, and to know, your loved one is going through a lot. And I know, like for me, I isolated myself big time. And that includes isolating myself from my family, because nothing was safe anymore. And my mother didn't realize that, but she thought, well, there's something wrong in my relationship with her. I'm upset with her, or, didn't realize that I'm isolating, not because of her. I'm not talking to her. I'm not getting together with her, not because I'm upset with her, but because I'm in my own little bubble, but I couldn't express it at that time. So being aware of that can help loved ones know, what the victim might be going through, and then help them to slowly pull them out and just support them. And the best advice I can give is to listen and to believe. So, obviously you don't coerce any information out of anyone, but if they want to come to you and talk, just listen. And you don't need to offer all this advice, and just listen. That's what they need, is they need to talk.
Oh, wow. How perfect of advice that is, because we can't find out what's wrong unless we learned how to do that active listening, right? And so I think that's just a great thing. Now, you also mentioned prayer and the prayer ministry that you're involved with. How has that helped you? Because you said that it's just been a tremendous thing in your life, that you get together with other women where you can minister to one another and pray. Talk about that.
That was, so the website, and for any Catholic woman who is a victim of betrayal trauma, domestic abuse, or just wants to get closer to Christ. Everyone's a victim of some kind of trauma. So I would just invite you to go to hopesgarden.com. And it's a wonderful site. There's a blog, but then they also have a community that you get. It's free, and you can post. And again, there's daily prayers, there's groups that you can join. It is absolutely amazing. And Laura, the founder, is the most loving, amazing woman. They're all amazing. And that's what really propelled my healing, was being in this group of women, feeling loved again, feeling supported, but being able to really talk about my situation and everyone understood. And I didn't get, like, in the secular world, if you start talking about, they're just like, well, just leave him, just leave him. It's like, it's not as easy. No, it's not that easy. And they get that it's about prayer. You know, you need to, let's pray, let's heal, they're just so supportive. And there's a course that Laura teaches on the Song of Songs. It's called just the Brides Group. There's actually 3 courses. And studying the Song of Songs in the Bible and Christ the bridegroom's love and desire for us was the most amazing thing. And that book in the Bible is the number 1 most difficult book that anyone who has undergone domestic abuse can possibly read. It's the very, very first line, let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, is very difficult for an abuse victim. And that's something we have to heal and get over. And so Christ knows that. And through studying that book and through studying Christ's love, feeling Christ's love, you begin to love yourself again. And that's when it begins. So that course and just the group, that's really, that's huge.
We probably could have a whole other hour or half an hour show or however long, just so that you can tell us more and more. There's a lot more to learn, but I want to invite people to go to the website, connect with you, learn more, get the book. Do you have any final words before we end this program?
Again, if you're in this situation, there's hope. It's so easy to feel hopeless and to feel despair and to feel like nothing's going to change. Nothing I do works. I'm stuck. But just remember, you're a child of God. God loves you and God does not want you to be abused. God wraps you in his arms and will help you along the healing journey. Healing is possible and it's magnificent. It's difficult and it hurts to go through the healing, but it's magnificent. And he carries us the whole journey.
Well, I congratulate you on your work. And I also want to say to you that I admire your perseverance, your faith, and your ability to share so well with us on this program. Thank you so much for being a guest with us.
Thank you.
So we really appreciate Jenny being on the show. Again, check it out at jennyduBay.com. We'll see all of you here next week on Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis on Fiat Ministry Network. God bless.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.